All right, welcome everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. We've got a ton to go through. This is the October 2020 Phoenix Tableau User Group. We've got a really special presentation lined up for today, so appreciate everyone joining. Just some housekeeping. All participants, you are muted. If you do have any questions for our panelists or presenters, please do use the Q&A section to send questions. If you have any comments, feedback, anything not pertaining to questions for our panelists, go ahead and use the chat box. This session will be recorded. It will be made available on Tableau's YouTube channel. For those of you that are just joining us for the first time or new to the Phoenix TUG, my name is Michael Perillo. I've been leading up the Tableau user group since 2013. Been using Tableau since 2011. Pretty much end-to-end through Tableau Desktop, Tableau Server, Prep. Been starting to get into some of the development, and we heard you loud and clear, and you want to know more what you can do with Tableau, and today's presentation, we're going to cover just that. Let's go back here real quick. As you can see, there's a bunch of empty silhouettes, if you will. We will be putting out some applications or inquiries for those of you that are residing in the Phoenix metro area and are interested in becoming part of the Tableau user group leadership team. Stay tuned for that. We're going to be looking to build a whole new council, if you will, and evangelize Tableau across the state and beyond. Tableau Fringe Festival, for those of you that are not aware, let's go back here. This is a program that has been spawned off by the Tableau community, and they are accepting applications for speakers. So if you are interested in presenting in and around Tableau, different areas, we would love to have you sign up for information on that. Go out to the Tableau or the fringefestival.rocks for more information. Another Tableau community project that spun up is the Tableau Mentorship Program. If you are brand new to Tableau or you're looking to skill build in a particular area, whether it be development, administration, APIs, things like that, this is a great place to connect with people that can help guide you. Or if you want to, in turn, become a mentor and help those that are looking to upskill, this is a great place to do that, mentoringmeetup.com. For any of those that have been displaced by COVID, if you are looking for work, this is another community spun up project, the Tableau Talent Finder. Some information over on the link there, the bit.ly link. Again, if you're looking for work or you are an employer that's looking for talent, please leverage these tools to connect with the right resources. Phoenix TUG is on Slack, and we'd love for you to join us. If you are interested in joining our channel, go out to the bit.ly link there. It's bit.ly/PhoenixTUG Slack. Provide your email and you'll get instantly access to the channel. Any questions, always feel free to connect with us. Happy to help. Our next meeting is going to take place on November 19th. We'll be teaming up with Des Moines Tableau user group, so stay tuned for information around that and topics. We just wrapped up the Tableau conference 2020 with Iron Viz champion Christian Felix, who's a co-league of the Tucson Tableau user group, so congratulations to Christian. Now that that's done, we've got an Iron Viz student edition coming. So we want to keep the Iron Viz here in Arizona. So if you are a student attending, obviously anywhere in the US globe, really, but like I said, keep it here in Arizona. So if you're a student at ASU, NAU, U of A, and surrounding areas, we'd love to hear from you. We're looking at potentially doing some kind of a workshop to get students interested in participating in Iron Viz, what it's going to take to be successful and get your Viz submitted. So if you're a student, please go out to the website. We'll share that in the chat, find out some information, and get acclimated to that. All right, as I mentioned, we've got a lot going on today. So our first presenter is Gigi. Gigi's a product manager, developer, evangelist with Tableau, and she's going to present all about the DataDev program. Part of what we're trying to do here within the user group is really demystify the complexities around or maybe the illusion that it's a complex type of thing. And we really want to get you onboarded into the developer program so you can really see how easy it can be to use and, again, take Tableau beyond. So Gigi, I'll go ahead and I'll turn it over to you and we'll get started.
Perfect. Thank you, Michael. I'm going to share my screen. You should be able to see my screen now. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Michael, to have me today for this presentation. So first, before we get started, I just want to announce that you are going to hear from us, me and Anya and Timothy from 3 different presentations. And at the end of these 3 presentations, we have a quiz for you. And you can win, the top 3 are going to win a DataDev beanie. See, I can show it to you. This one is perfect for the winter. And you also get free stickers if you win. So you have to listen to us for the next 1.5 hours, I think that's approximately. And at the end, we have questions based on our presentations. So I'm really excited to see how you perform and who is going to get this beautiful beanie. So let's get started. First, how many of you already use our APIs or use our developer tools? I'm just curious to see how many did you actually try and look at the documentation. Let's see if you can answer in the chat and tell us if you use them, if you use which one you used before. But this presentation is to show you, even if you haven't used our APIs, how can you get started and why you should get started with our APIs. Just close that. So, and how the benefits of using all our APIs and developer tools. I'm Geraldine Zanolli, aka Gigi. I'm a developer advocate at Tableau. I've been at Tableau for almost 5 years, and I'm passionate about developers, tools, APIs, and all the cool things that DataDev built. My role is really to help DataDev developer to use and adopt our APIs. You can also follow me on Twitter at Ilonage. And you can always send me a TRex picture or what you build with our APIs. I'm always getting really excited when I see all the cool things you have built. Next. So I'm sure all of you already use at least one of the Tableau products. It's then visualizing, using Tableau Desktop to visualize your data, or look at Tableau Public for inspiration, or publish to your dashboard to your team on Tableau Online or Server. And it's true that you can already build awesome things using all these tools and products, from data-driven dashboards that allow you to make data-driven decisions, to Make Up a Monday, where you build incredible vizes. Every time I'm looking at the hashtag on Twitter, I'm like, wow, how did they build it? But you might not be familiar with all our sets of APIs. REST API, Metadata API, you might not know all of them, but you might be familiar with a bunch of application integrations built on top of our APIs. From a web data connector to get you Instagram or Facebook data, to write back to your data source, or show me more for a really amazing results. And all of these integrations are built with our APIs. We don't have time today to go into seeing every single API and integrations, but in this next 20 minutes, 25 minutes, I just want to highlight some cool and awesome integrations built by our data devs. So are you ready for 1 hour, 20 minutes of really exciting demos? I hope so. But before we dig into the demo, look at integrations, I just want to take a step back and look at the Tableau developer platform as a whole and all the cool things you can do with our APIs. You can automate and integrate Tableau with third-party tools or automate tedious tasks that you're doing on Tableau Server. You can extend the capability of your dashboard with extensibility and integrate with other applications. Advanced analytics allow you to integrate Tableau with advanced model in R or Python or MATLAB. Then embedding allow you to embed Tableau inside another application. Then data connectivity allow you to get your data inside Tableau via custom connectors. So let's get started with data connectivity. So the first thing when you use Tableau, of course, is to connect to data. What's happening if you don't find the connectors in the list of native connectors in Tableau? So let's have a look. I open Tableau and I want to connect to Elasticsearch. It's taking some time. I have all my data in Elasticsearch and I want just to connect to Elasticsearch. That's great. I lost my mouse right now. I don't know if you can see it, but okay, let me check Elasticsearch. I don't find Elasticsearch. How do I do? How can I connect to my data? Don't worry. It's really funny right now. I don't see my mouse, so I have no idea where I click. I don't know what's going on. Okay, I'm going to try and guess where I'm clicking. Yeah, okay, I'm clicking here. Oh, okay, cool. I found my mouse. So I already went on the gallery and I have a connector. I downloaded the connector from the extension gallery. What I'm downloading actually is a taco file. So I already have the taco file and I'm just going to go to add this taco file to my connector folder. I downloaded for Elasticsearch. So now I have my taco file in my connector. So I'm going to open Tableau again and look for my Elasticsearch connector. So I closed it, open it again. And now let's have a look. Wow, how awesome is that? Now I can connect to Elasticsearch directly inside Tableau. The only thing I had to do is go to the extension gallery, download my connector. It's called a taco file. Yeah, I swear, like I already like tacos, but with that, I love taco even more. You can say like Taco Tuesday is every day. But now I can connect and use this connector directly inside Tableau. That's really cool. Now, let's talk now that you connect to your data, you start building your dashboard. The next step is, once you're built, you're like, oh, I wish I could do that. I wish I could extend Tableau to do even more. Okay, I have you covered. So I have here a dashboard. We are going to talk about extensibility and how you can extend the capability of Tableau. So I have this Modello dashboard. It's showing my building cost analysis. I can see the different items and the price for each item. What can I see on the right? Wow, that's really cool. Like that's Tableau? Yes, it's actually an extension running inside the dashboard. It's the Modello extension. Modello extension allow you to map 3D BIM data to 2D infographic. adding 3D modeling inside Tableau. That's really cool. I can zoom, I can look at the house, but like I see all of these items on the side. I wonder, okay, I see a sofa, quite an expensive sofa, not my IKEA sofa. So I want to see where is the sofa in the house. Some is loading. I can see. And that's one. They are building the house. All the different items putting together. I mean, it was a big house. So let's see about the flat screen. Okay, I can see it in the house. I can see where we put it in the house. And the sofa. Sofa, yeah, okay, in the living room. That's really cool. And yeah, I'm done now. I'm done looking at this house. I see all the items and it's really interesting, but I'm okay now. I know where are the items. I have an overview and it's allowing me to explore the extension. So what you can see here is really like Tableau bar charts. And what it's doing when I click on it is actually filtering and taking an action to my application. It's really important to notice that because extension allow you to have a two-way communication from the visualization to the extension and from the extension to the Tableau visualization. So that's an example of an integration with extensibility extension API. Now, what did we connected to data? We use the taco file, we build a dashboard, we integrated an extension. So the next step now is I want to actually automate certain process and integrate with other applications. So as you can see right now, that's my home. And I don't have coworker. I used to be in the office, and every time I was publishing a dashboard to our Tableau Online site, I could turn around and ask my coworker and say, oh, I built this dashboard, come see it. And I don't have that, and they cannot also come and talk to me and say, hey, Gigi, I built this new dashboard. So I actually want to have a voice every time that a new dashboard is published on my Tableau Online site, my team Tableau Online site. So for that, I use Webhooks. Timothy is going to talk a little bit more about Webhooks, but here what I'm doing is I want to like Alexa to notify me. I don't know, I cannot see myself, so I hope you can see Alexa. And I want Alexa to talk to me every time I'm publishing a dashboard. So what Webhooks is doing is going to notify the application, your third-party tool, and an action, an event is happening on Tableau. So I have Alexa here, and I'm going to create a new workbook.
On September 24th, 2020, Amazon announced the new Echo Dot, and Echo Dot with
Alexa, stop. Sorry about that. So let's try it. So say new workbook. I'm saving it. And oops, a demo effect, I guess. Let's try it again. I'm going to save. Let's see. Yeah. Alexa, please read my notification.
One new notification from Notify Me. Hey Gigi, a new workbook has been created on your site.
Thank you, Alexa. Now I know I have a new workbook and I get notified. Can be a new data source or data source refresh. Alexa, I can set it up so I get notified every time something is happening on my Tableau server or my Tableau Online. Now we talked about extensibility, automation, connectivity, and we saw some examples for all of them. Now let's talk about embedding. You have a main application and you want to bring Tableau inside your main application. You want to bring the awesomeness of Tableau inside your web portal. So here's some example of integrations. Here, if you're into chess, say that's a perfect current, hobby, you can play chess in Tableau using the JavaScript API. Okay, apparently, or I think I'm this one. Yeah, I moved somewhere here. So here where you can see that's a Tableau dashboard. And I can start playing chess directly inside Tableau because I'm using the JavaScript API and I'm embedding Tableau using the JavaScript API. And it's really an action. Again, the same way that we did it with extension is that from the dashboard, I can take an action directly inside my application and from my application to the dashboard. So if you're not into chess, but you have your dashboard and you have a portal, that's another example of a really cool portal here. You can see you have the data and you can, all of that is actually Tableau. The portal is an Interburger portal looking at data for restaurants. And what you see here is Tableau visualization. It might make more sense if I, for example, if we go look at the cells. We like the burger, and here is your Tableau dashboard. You can recognize it with the tooltips if you're familiar with Tableau. And you can take actions here, such as downloading or subscribe. And all these icons are icons from your web application. And here you can also take actions directly from the dashboard to your application. But all that is actually Tableau. Really cool, isn't it? Now, we saw a lot of various ones. What is the last thing we haven't seen so far? It's advanced analytics. Once you have built all these cool integrations, you might start using calculate field to do some best sum, average, or some different calculations directly inside Tableau. But you're at that point where you want to do more, even with calculate fields. You want to integrate with your advanced models or with your Python or R script. For this demo, I'm going to show you, I'm sure now you already noticed, let me open, but I have an accent. So yes, my native language is actually French. Ooh. Let me just set it up. And I have all my coworkers sharing with me dashboards in English. And I actually wonder, I wish we had dashboards in French, like the data. Here is all the tweets using the hashtag DataDev. And if you're on Twitter, feel free to tag us and tweet about this presentation using the hashtag DataDev. But we have all of these tweets using the hashtag DataDev. Happy New Year. It was kind of a long time ago, but we're in 2020. Who counts time right now? So I have all these tweets in English, and I actually want to have all the text on my dashboard, like all the data, in French. But you know what? I don't want to go in and set it up and like translate by hand and have all around the world. Maybe they want to have these tweets in their own language. So what I use for this is the analytics extension API that allow you to send data to a web server or integrate with R or Python. So I already have that. I can just check. Okay, it's working. The server is working. And the only thing I did here, I'm going to show you, is write a calculation. So what I'm actually doing here is I say, okay, I want the script translate. I'm passing the tweet so that the tweet's coming from Twitter, the text. And I know already that the tweet is in English and I want it to be translated in French. Okay, let's see. Let's drag and drop these tweets. And what can I see? It's in French now. Perfect. Timothy, can you confirm it's French? Because I know we have something in common there.
It's absolutely French. I understand them as well.
Perfect. So I'm not lying. But as I say, we have different coworkers from all around the world. So what if they want to have the same translation as well in their own language? So I already created here a parameter. Let me pick between French, Spanish, Italians. You can add other languages if you want, but just a drop-down menu for me to select a different language. So I'm going to go edit the calculation. And this time, I'm not going to hard code French. I'm actually going to use the parameter. Okay, so nothing changed. Let's use the drop-down menu and change it to Spanish. Feliz año nuevo DataDev fan. Anyone speaking Spanish? But I mean, from my high school Spanish, it seems right. What about Italian? Oh, that's my tweet in Italian. Perfect. I'm good here. I can share my dashboard with other coworkers from all around the world, and they will have only the tweets in their own language. Really cool, isn't it? So now we've seen all the different integrations. We saw an example for each bucket and each categories. And I'm sure now you're like, yes, I want to start with developer tools. I want to start with APIs. What should I do next? You can join the Tableau Developer Program today at developer.tableau.com. There's multiple advantages to join the Tableau Developer Program. You get early access to our APIs. You get a free development site to try and learn about our APIs. I can share a personal story here. Is when I joined Tableau, I actually started using the REST API. It was one I wanted to learn. And we didn't have a free development site at the time. So I was just using my team server. And one of the first action I made and the first thing I wanted to do is actually create a new site on the team server or a new project. So I run my script, I create a new project, and everything worked at the time. Great. The next step, I was like, okay, now I want to delete my project on my site. So I write my script, I do everything, and I try to delete. I try to run the script like 4 or 5 times, and I have this error message. And I turn around to my coworker and I say, oh, I don't know what's happening. Like, I cannot, I think my script is right. And he look at my script and say, yeah, your script is right, but right now you're trying to delete all the sites on our team server. And you don't have a permission for that. And that's a good thing because, yeah, we don't want you to delete all our work. So yeah, fortunately, I didn't have the permissions, but I wish at the time I would have a free development site to try and learn our APIs. You get also a direct connection to the engineering team. We have a Slack. Once you join the developer program, we invite you to a Slack workspace where you have engineers and different product manager there to answer some of your questions and hear from you and your feedback. You are going to be the first one to know before anyone else about all the cool things that we have been working on, what the team is working on, all the cool APIs and developer tools available in the next weeks or months. We send you a monthly sprint demo invitation. It's the occasion for engineers to demo what they've been working on and for you to ask any questions that you might have. You're also joining an awesome Tableau DataDev community. You will hear from Anya and Timothy, both are Tableau DataDev ambassadors, and they are awesome. And all the team there, all the community is just great and have here to help you get started and also help you with your different use cases. If you are following the DataDev or the developer program, you already know about our TRex. Our TRex is Flex and is our mascot. So I don't know if you can see how he is there in my back. He always has my back. And I think Anya also has it in her back and her background, is our mascot, Flex the TRex. And we always try to make any other learning opportunity fun for you to learn. So join us at developer.tableau.com. And If you are not staying for the quiz or you don't feel confident taking the quiz, if you are joining the Tableau Developer Program in October, we send you free stickers for your laptop or anywhere where you want to put it. So feel free to join us at developer.tableau.com. And if it's not you, maybe someone in your team that's a developer might want to join. So share it with others as well. On that, thank you. And I hope you enjoyed the session and you learned a lot. And I hope to see you soon at another event.
All right. Gigi, thank you. That was amazing.
Welcome.
All right. So, yeah, if you have any questions about the developer program, please post that into the Q&A panel. It is 100% free. You do not need to be a world-class developer to sign up. There's a lot of tutorials and samples to help you get started. And I'm sure Anya and Timothy are going to share some great resources as well to help you along the way. Again, today we're really focusing on the Metadata API and Webhooks, but there's so much more to DataDev, and we want to hear from you. So future meetings, demos, workshops, things like that, want to know what you're interested in. All right, so our next presentation is from Anya. Anya is a DataDev Tableau ambassador. So the DataDev ambassadors are brand new for this year, adding to the other 5 tiers that we have within Tableau. Anya's a, what would it be? I guess an analytics consultant trainee with Information Lab. So she's part of the data school cohort. Yeah, and she's a Tableau and Alteryx consultant. So she's got a background in economics, art history, photojournalism. And prior to the Information Lab, Anya worked as a senior consultant at EY. So that's Ernst & Young. Later, she returned to academia and she studied for her MA in History and Business of Art and Collecting at the University of Warwick. And that's where she analyzed historical art market data to find correlations between key elements, events that shaped artwork's commercial perception and prices. Now, after completing her MA, Anya worked in sales and marketing for an art and culture organizations, quantifying and performing marketing campaigns, digital communications, events, and publications. There's so much that she has. If you do want to learn more about Anya and all the work that she does, she has a blog. We'll post that into the chat. If she hasn't done that already, you can learn more. For this topic, we're going to learn about the Tableau Metadata API, how it enables users to explore data sources on content on Tableau Server or Tableau Online. And Anya's going to showcase how to query the metadata API to build out a data dictionary in Tableau. Anya, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Michael. Thank you for such a nice presentation. Thank you for inviting also to speak at this event. I'm sure it's going to be a great introduction to metadata API. Can you see my screen now?
We can see it.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So yes, hello, my name is Anya, and I'm going to talk about building a data dictionary using Tableau's metadata API. And first, I want to refer to the talk that Gigi just gave and just make sure that we understand where the metadata API sits in the toolbox of Tableau developer tools. So the metadata API is a part of this automation and integration pack of tools together with REST API, Webhooks, Hyper API, TSM, and Tableau Server Management. So metadata API allows you to automate some manual tedious tasks and create custom workflows that will allow you to learn more and manage your Tableau content and external assets. And when I say external assets and content, I mean content is everything created on your Tableau server or Tableau Online. So it's workbooks, some views, metrics nowadays. External assets, I'm referring to data sources that are connected to your workbooks on Tableau Server or Tableau Online. And so the main thing about Tableau Metadata API is that it allows you to understand and trace the relationships between content and external assets on your Tableau server. And the Tableau Metadata API is connected to Tableau Catalog that indexes all your assets and content and external assets on your server, and allows you to just resurface this information via the data management add-on if you have it licensed, or otherwise you can directly access this metadata API via the API using also REST API, Tableau's REST API. And I mentioned already data management add-on, and if you do have it licensed on your server, you should be able to see the metadata in a nice and user-friendly way in the Tableau Server or Tableau Online environment next to relevant workbooks or next to relevant data sources. It allows you to discover the content and relationship, as I said, between content, trace the lineage between different objects, for example, where the fields are used in the workbooks and where the fields are coming from, which data sources. And also it allows you to analyze the impact you might have if you delete a certain workbook, a certain data source, or certain field, which workbooks, which other workbooks will be affected, which users will be affected, and so on. And accessing metadata API is quite straightforward. If the users, if your Tableau server, if the users on Tableau server are licensed with the data management add-on, they can access Tableau Metadata API directly from Tableau Server or Tableau Server Online. Make sure though that your Tableau server has catalog, Tableau Catalog and Metadata API enabled. In Tableau Online, it's enabled by default. If the server is not licensed with data management add-on, the users can access the metadata API only if the derived permissions, so-called derived permissions, are enabled on your Tableau server. The last thing I want to mention here is that Tableau's metadata API uses GraphQL language to write your queries and to get data information about your content and external assets. And we will actually see in action how you can do that in a moment. And before I move on and talk more in details about how to query the metadata API, I want to answer the very frequently asked questions from the beginning. What's the difference between metadata API and REST API? Because frequently when you talk about metadata API, people usually say, wait, but it really sounds very similar to REST API. And indeed it is, but the main difference, let's say, so the main reason you can have access to metadata API is when you really want to trace the relationship and understand the relationship and lineage between different assets and content on your website, on your Tableau server. REST API is great to use when you want to update or delete something from your Tableau server. So that's maybe the main difference. Metadata API is read only. It doesn't allow you to update or delete any content on your website. So we talked about what is Tableau Metadata API. Let's see how we can access it. And if we have data management add-on on the server enabled, we can see that the GraphQL environment, the very user-friendly interface, can be accessed directly from Tableau Server or Tableau Online, going into the external assets section on the left side of the interface. And then there will be this note that says query metadata API GraphQL. And GraphQL is the language, and graphical is the graphical interface which allows you to access and query the metadata API. Don't worry if there are too many QLs in my sentences. That will make sense a little bit later in a couple of seconds when we will start querying the API. You can also access this user-friendly interface directly by updating your link of the Tableau Server or Tableau Online by just adding metadata/graphical at the end of the address of your Tableau Server. You can also use a REST API to access to query metadata API using the ways to authorize you as a user. And I believe that Timothy is going to talk later about it as well in more detail, because it's also used to set up webhooks. So that's how we can access the metadata API. Let's look at how you can actually understand how to write your queries. How do you structure them? And there are two things to keep in mind about the metadata model and how it's structured, and that will impact how you structure your queries. So the first aspect is having parents and child objects. For example, in this case on the screen, we have the parent object, which is a database server. And then this parent object contains the child objects. So this database server, in other words, a data source, it can be just a simple file. It can be a cloud file like a Google Doc. It can be custom SQL table, or it can be database table, the actual database, or it can be the web data connector that you use in your as your data source. So that's the difference between the parent objects and the child objects. And parent objects, they can be both content, say a workbook, or they can be an asset, say like in this case, it's an external data source, and they can be managed independently of other objects. Child objects sometimes can have also, can relate to content or can relate to assets, and they cannot be managed independently of their parent objects. So if you want to query, for example, information about file, you need to query first the parent object, which is a database server. And some child objects can also get this further branches and become parent objects to some other objects. And we will see later on how it looks in the queries. So that's one side. We have parent and child objects. Another side is objects themselves, and that they have different types. So for example, in this case, you have database, and the database can be a file or it can be an actual database server. And then the object types, they further have their own object attributes. So for example, if we go further with the file example here, a file can have its ID, its name, its description, whether it's embedded or not in the workbook, whether it's certified file data source or not. So there are all these different attributes that objects can have. And to look at how we can structure, a very simple example of how we can structure the metadata query is, this is a very simple example. We just need to give the query name and then to show the objects we want to query. There might be some arguments like a filter or some sorting argument as well. And then we need to put the attributes of this object, and then these attributes in turn might have their own attributes. Again, this is maybe a little bit too confusing, and you say, wait, there are so many curly brackets and I don't understand what's happening here. Don't worry, because we are going to look at how to query the graphic metadata API just in a second. And at the end of this session, after we query the metadata API, we will have this data dictionary, which in my case, just a list of calculated fields. So you can think about data dictionary from different points of view. You can think that I want to create the list of all my fields in all my data sources. You can think about creating maybe a list of all the data sources and related workbooks to them. I decided to go down the route of the calculated fields only. And so my workbook has all the calculated fields in all my workbooks on my developer's Tableau Online instance. And it also shows you the data type, the formula for this calculated field, the description of this field, if there is a description. And then you see these symbols, the red and black. So if there is a red symbol, that means that there is a warning, the data quality warning. And we will see how to get this from metadata API as well. If there is no data quality warning, you just have this eye icon that allows you to get a little bit more information about, for example, which workbook this field belongs to, and which worksheet and which data source, and if there is any description as well. And then I also use some filters to go through different workbooks and different projects to filter maybe workbooks by the tags and see everything related to a certain tag. And you can also search the calculated field just using this wildcard search filter on the right side. So let's go into Tableau and see how we can query the metadata API. So to do that, as I was mentioning earlier, this is my Tableau Online sandbox, part of the developers program, as Gigi mentioned earlier. And to query the metadata API to get into this user-friendly graphical interface, we need to go to external assets on the left side. And then in the top right corner, you can see here this link saying query metadata. So let's click on this link and I will get the new page open. And you can see it looks quite a bare bones interface. You might say, well, it doesn't really look very advanced, but it's actually a great thing that it doesn't have a lot of elements and a lot of parts to think about and to take care about. You really focus on writing your query in this white space on the left side. And you can also get immediate access to documentation. So in the upper right corner of your web browser, you will get the documentation. So if you're not sure how the object is called exactly in the API documentation, how you can structure your query, what are the attributes of a certain object, you can search for it here. Say, for example, if I want to work with calculated fields, I just type calculated and I see all the instances where this mentioned. So for example, I will see there is a calculated field. No, actually, I want to look at the query calculated fields. So if I click this, I will see all the different notes about it. And then it tells me there is a type of the object, calculated field. So if I click there, I will get more detail about this object. And you see, if I'm scrolling further, I get all the fields that are available for this object, such as ID, name, description, folder name, and so on and so forth. The list is really quite long. So that's a great option here. Let me just close it for now to give a little bit more space. And then this space, as I mentioned earlier, on the left side, that's where you're going to write your query. And on the right side, this big white space as well, is where you're going to see the response for your query. So the query should be written using this language that's called GraphQL, sorry. And the response is going to be in the JSON format that you can easily connect to Tableau and then create your visualization. So let's start writing the query then. So first, what we need to do, let me remove this text. And first, I just need to say query. And you see, once I start typing, I get these suggestions. So Tableau thinks that Tableau Metadata API that thinks that I want to type query. And indeed, I want to type that. So I select query. And then I need to give the name to my query. So it can be something absolutely not from the documentation, because it's just for you how you want to call your query. So in my case, I want to call it calculations. Okay, and next I want to put the curly brackets to say that this is going to be space for my query. And then I press enter just to split them and give the space for me to write the actual body of the query. So query calculations is just the beginning. So what do we want to do here? We wanted to inquire about all our calculated fields. So let me start typing calculated fields. And you see, again, I'm getting the suggestion from the API telling me that maybe you want to use one of these objects. And I'm saying, oh yeah, actually, I want to use calculated fields. So this is good. This is the starting point. And then I want to say, okay, this is my object. Now I want to find attributes of this object. So again, I need to put the curly brackets, and you see by default the query, let me make it a little bit bigger. The interface, puts this curly brackets on both sides, as it should be for proper syntaxes. And you don't really need to think about which bracket I already closed and which one I still need to close. So that's a great feature here. Again, press enter just to enter in the space where I'm going to list all these attributes for this object. And in my case, I want to see the name of the calculated field. Okay. What else? I want to see description. And you see, once I start typing, I get all the attributes that are available for this object. So description, good. Then I want to see data type, formula. And then I want to also see whether this calculated field is referenced in turn in another calculation. So I know that it should be referenced. And once I start typing, you see I get all these options, and you can actually understand what you can query in this API. So I know that I want to look at whether this calculation is referenced by other calculations, but you can also see whether this calculation is referenced by sets, by the fields in general, by groups, by filters, and so on and so forth. So it's really, really detailed and extensive list, which is great. So let's see, referenced by calculations. Here we go. And referenced by calculations is in turn its own, an object in its own right. So it has its own attributes. So let me put another set of curly brackets. And that's where you're going to get into the rabbit hole of curly brackets. But don't worry, graphical really makes it easy for you to keep on top of all your curly brackets and make sure that your syntax is correct. So reference by calculation, what do I want to get when I query this object? I want to get the name of the calculation that it's a query, that it's referenced by. Okay, name is there. And then I want to get the formula as well. So I want to see how it's actually used, what kind of calculation is used at. So this is a good point. We have quite a good list already of the objects. So now remember that we have this bracket that's closing this other bracket for the reference by calculations object. So this is the set related to this object. Let's now go out of this object. So this whole part is referred to reference by calculations object, but we want to go out of this object and continue with our list of attributes for the calculated fields. So we need to make sure that we're out of this curly bracket. What else do we want to see here? We want to see maybe which databases this calculated field is connected to. So there is a thing in the metadata API that is a direction of your relationship. It can be upstream. So for example, if I want to see which databases this field is coming from, so I want to look at upstream databases. If I want to see where this field is used in, for example, which workbooks is used in, I need to look at downstream workbooks. So first, let's look at upstream database. So here we go, upstream databases. And let's actually, I'm talking a lot about here all different objects and attributes, and it may be a little bit confusing. Let's actually try and run our query. So let's see, let me press this run button and execute the query. Let's see what happens. And you can see I actually forgotten to add any other attributes for our upstream databases object, but the graphical understood that upstream databases is an object that has to have some attribute. So it added the very first attribute on the list, which is ID, in the documentation. It just added this attribute by default, because otherwise it won't be able to bring this object on its own. Which is a great feature. So if you forget some attributes, if they are necessary, Tableau will bring them in for you. So I actually don't need ID, I want name. So let's add name. But in the meantime, let's look at our response query on the right side. So you can see here that we have our calculated fields. Very nice. We have our name of this calculated field, the description. There is no description, so it's null. We have the data type, which is date in this case. We have the formula. If you do have any comments in the formula, they also will be shown here. We have the reference by calculation as an empty list, so we understand that this calculated field is actually not referenced by any calculations. And then we have the ID of the upstream database, which is not really useful for us. So I replaced ID with the name. At this moment, it's a little bit easier for me to understand what's happening, which upstream database it will refer to. So if I run it now again, I will see that my name of the upstream database is now appearing here instead of the ID. So you see that it's not only great to work with the graphical interface because it has all the documentation embedded and all the autocomplete suggestions, but it also allows you to immediately see the result of your query and really debug it and to understand how you can structure it better to get the data you want, rather than sending constant calls to the API and trying to understand whether the data is useful for you or not. Also, a great thing about the metadata API, because it's built using the GraphQL, it allows you to send a very, very focused query. Say, for example, calculated fields query can be focused on only the queries, only on the fields that are called in a certain way. So you can really narrow it down at the moment of sending the query, so you're not getting the volume of data about everything and then trying to unpick it and trying to get the data you want. So let's finish with this query we have. So I'm getting the data about upstream databases, which is good. So again, let me go out of this object and see. I want also to see which worksheets this calculated field is used. So I need to look at the worksheets where this calculated field is used. So it's downstream worksheets. So I know that it's downstream. And then there are all these options, and I go for downstream sheets. And again, it's an object in itself. So I need to, again, add the attribute here. To add attributes, you just add this set of curly brackets. And then inside, again, I just want to have a name for this object. And the last bit I want to see is actually upstream data quality warnings. So upstream data quality. Let me see. And I think it's not coming up here. But let's continue. Let's tackle this in a second. So let's instead look at the downstream workbooks. Downstream workbooks. And here they are. Again, downstream workbooks are exactly the same as downstream worksheets, that they are object and they have their own attributes. So let me just add them. So I want to see the name of the workbook. I want to see the project name where this workbook is saved. I want to see the tags, if there are any tags connected. And yeah, that's it. Let's run this query. So if I run this query, again, you see, I actually didn't think about it, but tags is an object in itself, so it also has to have some attributes to be presented. So by default, GraphQL just showed me ID here, and if I scroll a little bit further, yes, I have this downstream workbooks now appearing with project name and the tags attached. They don't really tell me much because I don't really remember their IDs. So let me remove this and replace it with name. And now when I run this query, I can see that my tags are appearing as I added them, so they make a little bit more sense to me. So London and London Fire Brigade, these are the tags I added to this workbook. And then the last bit, I still want to access this upstream data quality warnings. So let's try again. Yeah, here we go. Upstream data quality warnings. Here they appeared now. And the attribute I want to add here is the warning type. So I want to see whether it's the stale data, whether it's some kind of issue with the quality of the data. So that's the warning type going to be presented there. So if I run this query now, I can see that this data, for example, for this field, you see that upstream quality warnings says the warning type as stale. So that's a great way to see whether I have any issues with the data or not. So let me make it just a little bit smaller so you can see the overall view. You can also use history to see all the queries you ran recently. If you have several queries in the same window here, you can also, when you press run button, you will have a list of queries you want, and you can select the one you want to run. Also, if I, for example, forget to add one of the brackets or forget to format the query correctly, a great way to understand whether you have any issues, any errors in how you structured your data is to click this prettify button in the top above your query field. So if I click this, you see it got red. So it didn't prettify my query, it just got red. So it means that there is some kind of issue with how you structured your query. So let me add this bracket. And if I click prettify now, it a little bit arranged them in a different way, all the elements of the query, but it actually doesn't show me the red color. So it means that it's all good. And the query, when I click it, it will run. So that's how you can query the metadata API. And you can use the documentation embedded here on the site as well. And now what do we want to do? We want to actually copy all this JSON output and save it as a text file and add it to Tableau. So I just click in this field where I have my response. I click Control-A on my keyboard, Control-C, and then I save it as just a simple text file. And I can just save it as a JSON file. Make sure that you save it as JSON file. Say I want to save it at so I save it as JSON, and then you can connect. You see the formatting as well changed immediately. And then you can connect this JSON file to Tableau and build the workbook. So let me open the workbook I have already built. I cheated a little bit here. I built it before, but you can see here that this is my data source. That's my JSON file, just right here. And you can see all these different fields and all these different levels of JSON file of the query output presented here. And then let me show you just the great thing as well. When you connect to JSON files, you have all these fields, all these responses nicely grouped in folders. So you can see whether you're working with the data related to worksheets or workbook or calculations and so on. And so this is the data dictionary that I built querying the metadata API. So I can see, for example, that this data source for this calculated field has a data quality warning that it's stale data. So we need to take care of this. But at the same time, you can see immediately the formulas, the data type, the descriptions of the field, and so on and so forth. And you can also filter this workbook, this dashboard based on, for example, a workbook name, say sales by state. And you can see that there's only one calculated field. So this is how you can build a data dictionary, and it's up to you what you want to present on data dictionary. I guess it's based on the use case. So in my case, I just focused on calculated fields. But really, as you saw, the sky's the limit with the metadata API. It really allows you to get so much more out of your content and all these different aspects of the content and external assets as well. And so you can learn more about Metadata API, but also about all other tools in Tableau Developers Toolbox, either by watching tutorials by Tableau Developer team or community on YouTube. There are a lot of very great videos. You can also read more about Metadata API in the documentation, and there are also some sample queries provided. Obviously, I support Gigi here. I would recommend joining Tableau Developer Program, where you can get access to your developer tool, Tableau Online, and just try and explore and discover new tools and play around with them. And also, I just want to invite you to join me at the Tableau DataDev Happy Hour. That's something new I set up that was inspired by the recent Tableau conference. It's inspired by the format of the brain dates, and it's a 1 hour long monthly chat with no previous experience in developing tools needed, no questions considered silly, nothing is, all these topics should be open for everyone. And if you want to start, if you want to understand how to start with developer tools, how to learn more, how to use different tools in Tableau universe, feel free to join me. The link is on the slide, and it will be posted in the chat. And yeah, if you have any questions, please join me at the happy hour. Otherwise, also feel free to reach out via Twitter or via my blog, where I write about how to use different Tableau developer tools. Thank you.
All right, that was amazing. Anya, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we are going to take a 5-minute break, and then when we get back, we'll kick things off again and start it up, and we'll talk about webhooks. So 5 minutes, roughly around 10, 11, 12 minutes after the hour, and we'll see you in just a moment. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Timothy, are you on? Are you back?
Yes, sir, I am.
Awesome. All right. So our next presentation, we're going to be speaking with Timothy on easy automation for events with Tableau Server and Webhooks. So sounds crazy scary, but very exciting stuff. So Timothy's a passionate data viz analytics consultant with comprehensive and deep knowledge of Tableau. You're going to see that on full display for sure. He's certified in both Tableau Desktop and Server, and he's versed in many other related fields such as automation, embedding, Center of Excellences, and did we mention his knowledge spans across all aspects of Tableau products. So at Bistory, he wears the hat of the head of Tableau's or talent development. You also find Timothy running, jogging through Belgium, playing the guitar, drums, badly, listening to metal music, or simply enjoying a beer with his friends. You may recognize Timothy. He was the 2018 Iron Viz champion at TC18 in New Orleans. Probably his biggest ambition of the decade, successfully tackled. Now, 2020, he's honored to serve as a term of Tableau DataDev Ambassador. Congratulations again on that. So the topic today, easy automation for events with Tableau Server with webhooks. And we're going to get acquainted with how you can leverage the concept of webhooks on Tableau Server with a variety of use cases, suitable for both experienced coders and those of you that are just getting started with automation. All right, Timothy, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing, and you can take it over.
Okay, thank you, Michael, for the introduction. I was only wearing the hat now just because I don't have a nice TRex in the background, I'm afraid, as Anya and Gigi do. But okay, I can take it off because it's going to be distracting otherwise. Yeah, thank you for the introduction. I realize now that I hear it that it kind of sounds like a resume, so maybe I need to make it a little more informal. But anyway, that's enough about me. The introduction to the session was relevant because I think this one is going to be slightly different from how Anya and Gigi approached this, as in, I will effectively assume that you may have no experience or no knowledge at all when it comes to APIs as a concept in general, and try to introduce that in the first place. Look at a few tools that are useful to explore and get acquainted with APIs. And that's going to work towards using that to work with Tableau Server Webhooks, which we'll introduce as well, and which allows us to do event-based automation. This is something I came up with. I don't know if it's a very good or descriptive title, but that's what it comes down to, which will become clear in a moment. So yeah, slightly different approach. I thought it was a really good idea of Anya to show where on the spectrum of the developer tools that this is the webhooks. So I blatantly just took a screenshot of the presentation 35 minutes earlier, and now here are the webhooks, also part of the set of tools that allow you to do automation and integration effectively. Because yes, as Gigi also demonstrated, remember she published a workbook to Tableau Online, and automatically her Alexa console or thingy notified her about that. So it's about automating things based on events like the publication of a workbook. But before, again, making the assumption that many of you, or some of you at least, have very little experience with these concepts, I think it's a good idea to take a step back and look at what an API is in the first place. We've used it during Anna's presentation in a very tangible and direct way, which was excellent because we understand the Tableau environment and we see the value in the information that she pulled out directly. But with webhooks, that's a bit more abstract. So I think it's worth looking into what an API is at first, and then see what a webhook is in relation to that. API, this is kind of a boring slide. API stands for Application Programming Interface. It's literally the interface to an application for programming. So, you know, if you swap those words around, it's an interface for applications for programming. That's the opposite of what the interface of an application is for a user. See, a user interface, which we're used to work with. If you think of Tableau Server, that's what you see in your browser when you navigate to your Tableau server. Well, an API, like the REST API, is the application to is the interface, sorry, to Tableau Server, but then for another application. It's an open language, so APIs are based on a agreed upon set of rules. There are standards, so that when you know how to work with one API, you can easily pick up work with a second one. And it's all about making communication between applications straightforward, right? Because it's easy for us to talk to an application by clicking and typing, but how do they communicate? Well, APIs aim to make that straightforward by providing this open, standardized language. In conclusion, I guess that's what I've been saying all the time, but APIs tie applications together. They allow them to communicate between each other in different ways, of which we'll see these examples. Here are examples of things that you might know have APIs. In fact, Gigi earlier displayed data from Twitter that she collected through their API. If you've participated in Makeover Monday, you will know data.world, where very often the datasets are hosted, and you can connect to them with Tableau Desktop directly through their API. Strava, if you like to run or cycle, provides APIs to access additional information about your activity. So all these things, all these trusted services that you know and use daily have APIs, and there's things that have APIs that you might not even expect. Things in your house, actually, it's 2020, so stuff in your house, appliances, your electricity meters, those things have APIs to communicate as machines between each other when it makes sense. So that's the conceptual part. With that in mind, how do those things effectively communicate? What does that look like? Well, they use something called endpoints. So in the case of the metadata API, that's a bit of a special one because it has one endpoint, and the type of question you ask it will determine the response. But thinking of Strava again, so the activity tracker websites, an endpoint could be activities or athletes, and you would address a different endpoint depending on the type of information that you're after. So if I want my personal information, like what's my weight and length and what gear do I have possibly, I might go to athletes. But if I want to know statistics of my latest run, the endpoint of the API I'll address is activities. And I'm speaking in the first person. When I say addressing that API, I could be talking about the application that I build, or I could be doing so interactively as well. And we'll see both methods of doing that in just a moment when it gets more interesting and hands-on. But so yeah, one concept on how APIs work is the endpoints. And then what you do with those endpoints will be determined by your request and request type to that endpoint. I realize this is abstract, but we'll illustrate in a moment. So the request types, sometimes called verbs, are, again, standardized things. These are the same for all APIs in general, and they are verbs like get or post. And a very simple example of that, again, Strava, activities. I can get an activity to retrieve the statistics, like my average pace during my run, but I can also post an activity to upload it to Strava. In fact, if you have a smartwatch, or if you have an application on your phone, even Strava's own application or any other, and you upload an activity that you've recorded there, it's going to use Strava's API to post it and to create it on the website. So get is to get data, post is to post, and there's a few other verbs like put and delete. Oh, sorry, I should have been displaying those. But put and delete, which also have different actions. Delete, you can guess. There's put, patch, and a whole variety of others. But get, post, and delete are very often, your most common actions. And then when you actually send out that request, you will get a response, which is in the JSON format that we extensively saw during Anya's demonstration with the metadata API. So that's not very different from what we would expect as a response from the REST API. So the same example for Strava. This is directly from their documentation, but if you want to get an activity, then they're going to tell you about what this thing does. So their verb for get activity, or their action, is it returns the given activity, and it requires some permissions, but that's out of scope for now. But then they tell you what the endpoint is. The endpoint is going to be a URL, which was the GraphQL one in the case of the metadata API. And you're going to add a verb to that. And your response here in JSON, in this case, again, is a very tangible thing, because apparently someone uploaded an activity called Happy Friday, going for a distance of, I assume, 28,000 meters, moving for 4,200 seconds, etc., etc. So that's the way that you communicate with an API and get a response back. And again, the key is that this is an interface for other applications or scripts or platforms that we use. And so, because this is structured language that is understandable by these. So with this in mind, a webhook is a bit different. What's a webhook then? Well, that's a logo of a webhook. But a webhook is not so different from an API. In fact, they're sometimes called reverse APIs. And remember the title of the presentation? You probably don't, because it was way too long and I need to shorten it. But it was about event-based automation. And that's the actual key here. A webhook works on an event basis, in that sense that instead of you querying the webhook or the API, the webhook is going to be the one talking when an event occurs. And to put this into context, remember when Gigi demonstrated the publishing of her workbook to her online site? Well, that event triggered the webhook that then set in action another stream of events, like, things that she meant to happen, like Alexa notifying her. And that's like the two-part system of a webhook. You're going to have a webhook defined based on an event. And then when that event happens, you're going to make sure that you catch the webhook's communication. You're going to tell your webhook where to actually direct its communication. And then you're going to catch that and you're going to process it and do stuff like get Alexa to say something. So the webhook is going to say, hey, endpoint, this happens. You also have incoming webhooks, but they're actually just an API endpoint that's designed only to listen. In the context of Tableau Server, it's always going to be outgoing webhooks that we define. Because again, we say, okay, when a workbook is created, this is what I want to happen. And these are actually other actions that you can do. So I think they've been briefly mentioned, but it can be about the creation, update, or deletion of a workbook or data source. So that's like the most significant events on your Tableau server if you want to keep track of what's happening in terms of interaction by your publishers. And also another interesting one is if a refresh of a workbook or data source starts, succeeds, or fails. I guess especially when it fails, you want to be informed because you want to do something about that. And I know built-in functionality allows you to just send an email, but it might be much more interesting to get a notification in Slack because that might be your place to work. And incidentally, that is going to be my example of a complete integration at the end. I need to be wary of the time though, so we'll see how far we get with that. A final note on the webhooks for Tableau Server specifically is that they are created and managed through the REST API. So the REST API is a different API of Tableau Server. We already had metadata, we had the REST API, and we're adding webhooks to that. So these things are kind of intertwined. In our case, we can define webhooks by talking to the REST API, by sending requests to the REST API, saying, this is what I want to define as a webhook. And I'm going to show you exactly this example in action with this nice blood red slide announcing demo time. So, okay, where to get started? Again, first, assuming you have never worked with an API, I hope you understand these concepts at a high level now. Going through that again will obviously help. But you understand the concept that we have a webhook that's listening, that's waiting for an event actually that's going to trigger something. But that's, how do you actually get started with that? Or how do you talk to an API? Because very well, you understand that it's for an application, but how do you as a person talk to it? So imagine you start from absolutely nothing. Then there is this API that's a very common example. It's themed around beer, which helps. But this is actually a website that's out there just to illustrate what an API is and allows you to experiment with it. And so imagine I start again from zero and I want to learn to talk to an API. Well, one piece of software you're going to be aware of is Postman, which I have running here, which we'll use in a moment. Postman is being referred to from the documentation of the Tableau webhooks as well. Postman, in fact, allows you, if you will, to pose as an application and talk to other APIs as if you were an application, using those standards, using those requests and those verbs that we looked at earlier. And again, the Punk API is a great way to start with that because it's a most basic API you can get. And you would always start looking at its documentation saying, okay, so the endpoint, remember, is the URL I want to talk to. There is no authentication, which is a concept that you might run into in the future. There are concepts that I can read about here, but then my attention is drawn to this header saying get beers, which I find more interesting than something called pagination. So I'll look at that. And so I see, okay, here's an example, get beers from the API. So being thirsty, I go and copy the URL. I don't copy the curl thingy before because that's another program you can use to talk. It's a command line based utility you can use to issue requests, but we prefer a graphical one to illustrate all this. And so I readied my environment here, but this is Postman and it's gonna embody the concepts that we were just talking about. In fact, I have a request URL here, which I'll paste my beer URL in, and I can select a verb here. And it doesn't get much more difficult than that because I can just send this and waiting for a response, I get the following. I get something you recognize, again, this JSON structured in a similar way with information about a beer called Buzz, which turns out is a real bitter experience. Well, this is not such a bitter experience because it works. It has an ABV of 4.5, etc., all kinds of properties, and I get more information, more than I can actually process here. And I get a second beer, etc., etc. Again, remember, this is for applications talking to applications, and this JSON is perfectly suitable for consumption and then processing by other applications. So I'm just looking at this as a human using Postman, remember that tool, to experiment with my API. So that's neat. Now, how about this in the context of Tableau and webhooks? Well, Postman turns out to be an excellent tool for that as well. I'm going to move it away from the screen for just 1 second while I authenticate, just because if you were to copy my token, you might be able to wreak havoc on our Tableau server. And no, I wasn't as smart. I didn't use my developer site, while obviously I should have, because then I wouldn't really care what you do to the contents. That being said, I am currently going through the authentication process. You shouldn't worry about that too much. It's really quite simple. Oops. But the thing is, you can learn about that using the Tableau documentation. I wouldn't want to get stuck on that because there's concepts there that we don't have the time to illustrate. But having been authenticated, I can look at what a REST API query could be for Tableau server. So apologies for the interruption, but I needed to do that. Now I have my token proving that I am who I am. Again, a concept you will understand in the future, but here I'm ready to talk to the Tableau Server API. At Bistri, our server is called the Penguin because that's the logo for Linux, and we just happen to call it that. No other questions, please. But I have this endpoint, again, from the documentation. This is a reference to the site I'm signed in, all very well detailed, and I'm interested in the workbooks. So again, remember the endpoint / URL that I use determines what I want to know about, and I'm getting those. So when I run this, send, and then I will pull up the body again, what I get is a response saying that I have a total of 276 workbooks on the server with the very well recognizable Tableau samples here, which is published by default if you allow Tableau to. And I can scroll and I can find world indicators, very, very, very original content on our Tableau server here. That's just a demonstration of using Postman with Tableau. Perfect to experiment, perfect to try and get it right, get your calls right before you actually start doing that at the next level, which would be to do so in a script, for example. I'm just gonna check the timing here. Okay, I have another 10 minutes, that should be perfect. Yeah, see how well prepared I am. We can list the workbooks, but that has nothing to do with webhooks. Okay, but remember, taking a step back, the REST API is the tool we use to manage webhooks. So we are going to place a call, and this is a post call to create a webhook this time on the same Tableau server. And this time, I won't just issue this call to the URL without any additional information. I will actually include a body of text here, which is also in JSON, but which is my message to Tableau server saying, well, I would like you to do this, to create this webhook based on the following event. And I could say, I'll use the documentation because I don't know them by heart. Here, refresh started. No, I want to do, I'm going to do workbook created as well, because that was a good example. The URL, the URL, that's, I don't know what the URL should be. How do I know what the URL to my webhook destination should be? And again, this is something that as a beginner is probably pretty difficult to find out, but turns out there's a really good tool to help you with that. This in the future will be some platform or server that your webhook lives on that you can point it to. But if you're just testing and experimenting, you can look for test webhooks or anything. And oh yeah, webhook.site is one I used in the past. And if you open that site, what that gives you is just, hey, here we're an environment where you can test webhooks, and it's actually waiting for our request, and it provides the URL we can give to our Tableau webhook to point to, right? So I give Tableau server this URL, and remember again, it's event-based. So when our Tableau server sees a new workbook has been created, it's going to talk to this other application, which is the webhook.site thingy that is the platform we can use. And this is our Phoenix Tug webhook that we're testing here. So with this body, I'm going to talk to my Tableau server, and I get a 201 created response, which makes me very happy because, again, live demo, you never know. I get a response body as well with some additional information, including the fact that I'm the owner of the webhook, its name, the event it's tied to, the fact that it's enabled, and an ID, which I can use to manage it later. If I'm not so sure anymore, I could go and say list webhooks, and I can run this too. And I didn't prepare so well, but my server here, which I don't have in my variables anymore, is our dearly beloved Penguin. And if I now do send a request, I get I get this same webhook. I have a few others set up actually for other purposes, which we'll get to in a moment. But okay, the webhook now exists. Nothing here yet. Why not? Oh yeah, well, because the creation of the webhook doesn't mean anything to this URL. It's the trigger that we defined. So the creation of the workbook on the server that is relevant. So I will open Tableau Desktop and I will create your most basic workbook, a list of segments and their sales. At least I could visualize it. That's the least I could do. And then on our server, I will publish this to the default project, which it's not good, but it kind of is the bin. It shouldn't be. Delete me. So that remember to do this. I'll publish my workbook. And in Gigi's office, now we should hear Alexa going off. Well, if it was her side. In my case, it's a bit lamer, but my webhook.site here should get something being said. No request yet. Interesting. Maybe I need to try twice as well. Ends in 001. That seems to be correct. I didn't try this at first. Maybe I should have. I could go and troubleshoot. You post to that. Yeah, that's it. That's disappointing. Okay, we could go and troubleshoot what's going on because there are logs about these things, but we don't want that to take too long. Less webhooks. So what happened? Failed from site, failed to that other thing. Yeah, but that's not active. Oh, it fails another webhook that I have on the same hook. Oh, that's and this one sent. It sent it and it got a 200 to this URL. Okay, so apparently this platform for testing your webhooks is really not that good. But if this were a different one like request bin or stripe.com, you would have a response here. Oh, I already closed it. You would have a response there that you can then interpret. Not to worry, I'll give you a cooler example than this. But the purpose of this first section was to show you that there are tools like Postman and not webhook.site that can help you experiment and get things right until you understand the concepts very well and you're ready to take that to the next level, which could be create a script or application that does that. Back to the presentation for just a moment. I realize I won't have time to run through all this, but I'll show you the concepts. Again, this is an experiment of my own, so my purpose for myself was to learn because I knew Postman and I understood the concepts, but I didn't really know what it would be like for an application to listen to that webhook. So I set out and tried with Python to write something that would listen to a webhook somewhere on a server that we have and then do something with that, which is post to Slack. So that's what I want to do. When any webhook supported event occurs on our Tableau server, post to a Slack channel. So we have Python in the middle. Python is going to actually talk to Tableau server in the first place to create the webhooks when that application starts. That's what we did in Postman. We used the post request to create the webhook. It'll also listen. So when the webhook is triggered, and this is at any other point in time, it'll be listening for that webhook's request coming into the Python application, and that'll then post to Slack. So it consists of 3 components, something to create and manage the webhooks, which is a Tableau server client, which is basically, if you know Python or scripting or the concepts, is a library that allows you to communicate with Tableau server's REST API in a much more convenient way because it's all pre-prepared for you and it gets much easier. So remember that this will be shared in the recording anyway. Then something to listen is another library, HTTP server. So I'm going to have a listening server in my Python script to get the response. And then we're going to post something to Slack as well using another library in Python. This is what it looks like in some other flowcharts. So step 1, manage the webhooks. So basically create the webhooks by having our Python scripts, Tableau server client talk to the REST API. It's going to create the webhook. And when the webhook is triggered by the creation of a workbook or whatever, it's going to call the event here. And that same thing is going to then get the metadata and post to Slack. So the last part is just processing what we get. So to see that in action, I'm not going to show you the code because that's presentations with code are probably not a good idea. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to exit here. I'm going to go to the application server this runs on. So this looks much more professional than my Postman and non-working example on the other side. But this is what it could look like in reality, I think. Again, it's an experiment. But I'll switch to wherever I put this, Tableau Server Webhooks to Slack. I'm going to first stop that same service because it's already running. Don't worry about the syntax of these commands and stuff. This is Linux command line, but this is where I run the Python script. As soon as I start it, you're going to understand what's actually happening, which I will do now. I will first activate my virtual environment. Those of you who have used Python will know what these things are. What do I actually want to activate, right? Yeah, so I'm developing in an environment where I have all the components that I need, and I'm going to tell Python, please run my script, this. So, okay, there we go. A few things happened. So we signed into the Tableau server with the same token as I used with Postman. I deleted existing webhooks because I want them to exist for everything, but if they have the names that I chose here, they're going to be deleted and then recreated. So now I have 6 webhooks for creation, update, delete of workbooks, refresh failed, delete, and refresh failed of data sources. Then we sign out again because we did what we had to do with the REST API. There is a listener now, and this is the HTTP server part of the application. So now, if you look at this in the scheme of things, now here at the end of this arrow, we're waiting for that thing to happen. I'll just publish again. This should work because ideally I did test and vet this. So I'll override it. That should work. And here I'm just going to be waiting. Oh, yes, received post request from path. Oh, and I have some checks and it says, okay, this is where that came from. The event is workbook updated. In my case, it downloads a thumbnail of the image, of the workbook. And so if I go to Slack and hope I'm not sharing any secrets here, but I should see, yeah, so it worked twice here because it's not as crappy as webhook.site, but the same workbook on my server got updated there. So I know I'm going over time. I just need 1 more minute, so bear with me. It's for the conclusion, which is important to any presentation or story. I'm going to run through the code. Oh, that was a really bad idea. Never put code in slides, I think. Okay, conclusions. You can consider more interesting workflows. The Slack one's pretty good because you can ping people whose data source is failing and they need to take action. That's a good thing. Jeremy Harris pointed out he created one that's very similar, but instead it creates a Trello card. If you use Jira, that could be a Jira task or whatever. But that's a very actionable thing too, because you need to fix your refresh or acknowledge that it's not working anymore. You need to take action on that. So that's a very tangible thing too. You could create a calendar appointment when a data source is updated. That doesn't make any sense unless, what if you have a process in your company that says, well, when you change a data source, it needs to be reviewed by someone. So it sets up that calendar appointment with the 2 of you to review it. I don't know, completely fictional, but it could be. And just like the fancy example Gigi showed, you could do things like my car has an actual API. My car is not the car on the screen, which is a Lamborghini, but I could actually flash my car's lights when a workbook is published if I really wanted to. One day I will, I promise. But I haven't gotten that far. I only posted to Slack, so that's just the next step. And you can do anything. So just think of in your environment, what makes sense to automate in case of events on Tableau server, and just be inspired by the community, by these examples. There's many more that have been shared. And thank you for your attention. That was everything a bit faster than I expected.
Yeah, that was absolutely incredible. Thank you, Timothy.
My pleasure.
So this kind of really just shows the power of what you can do with the metadata API, with REST API, with webhooks, and there's so many use cases. So the creativity that you have, ingenuity, just give it a shot. Get out to developer.tableau.com, sign up. If you're just starting out, there's a lot of resources that'll walk you through the process. Get ramped up in no time. And then you can flash the lights on Timothy's car. It'd be amazing. All right, Gigi, you want to go ahead and share, and we'll do some Q&A and Tableau DataDev trivia.
Sure. So let me just, I have some issue today with my laptop. Let me share my screen. So apparently I had to update Chrome today. Now. So now we are going to take some questions. I don't think the bin is fitting me right now. So let's just take some questions from the Q&A. So if you have any questions, please use the Q&A box in the chat or the chat, and we are going to take some questions. Let's do 5 minutes of questions, and then we do the quiz. So can you see my screen? Cannot find the. I'm not familiar with Zoom, so I don't see the chat right now on Zoom.
Okay, so I don't see any.
You should have a toolbar on the top,
questions.
I think, which can roll out if you hover. Oh, but you were trying that. I'm not familiar with Zoom on Mac. Sorry.
I think
I have it at the bottom of the screen.
Oh.
Okay, I see the chat now. I see the Q&A in the chat. So let's see if there's any, or can we see any questions? So I have a question. I see a question for Timothy. What is the advantage of using Postman versus using Python?
Yes, excellent question. So I used Postman here to demonstrate the concepts in a more interactive way, I think, because if you're well versed in Python, you might skip that step and just start talking to the API with your script directly. I find with my less experienced, like I'm still learning about these kinds of concepts, I find it easier to just fiddle around in Postman, try things and repeat a lot rather than always do that in the script, which I'm less comfortable with. So that's one possibility or one reason to do that. Also, I didn't mention that, I think, but the GitHub repository for Tableau Webhooks provides you a library of requests for Postman so that you can download and open that library and immediately start interacting with Tableau Server, creating those REST APIs. So it's really, really accessible. That would be the main thing.
Cool. Perfect. Thank you. Anya, a question for you. What can you do if you get the subscription, the data management subscriptions? If you get licenses for the data management, can you have more? Do you have more functionality with the metadata API? What is different there?
You can actually see all the metadata resurfaced, let's say, so in Tableau Server, so you can see immediately if there are, for example, data quality warnings, like I was looking at in my query. You don't need to query it in this in the graphical. You can see it immediately next to the data source, but also when you open any of the workbooks that are connected to this data source. So that's a great way to use the metadata, to see the metadata and make it available for everyone who is authorized on server if you have the data management add-on.
Perfect, thank you. And a last question, is the developer program free? Yes, it's very free. You get the development site for free and you get invitations for free as well. And you have a Slack channel as well. So last question, I think it's for you, Timothy and Anya. Can you tell a little bit more about your experience as a data dev? How did you get started? And what are the first steps if someone wants to get involved with APIs and developer tools?
I'll go first. Yeah, thank you. Let's see. Wow. Can I even remember how I got started? I'm pretty sure that I started at the time that the DataDev program began. I was just triggered by that. It spoke to me because there were questions around automation and specifically administrating Tableau Server that I couldn't answer as well as I thought I should for clients I worked with. Like they would ask me things like, oh, how would we go and clean obsolete workbooks that are no longer being used? And I would think, I remember a colleague talking to me about an API. Is that how you spell it? Oh, okay. And I think there should be possibilities there because they told me that it automates things. And, getting more involved into Tableau server work and getting more and more of these questions, and then finding out the program started, I rolled right into it. And that was, I guess I also drawn into it because of the openness of Tableau and sharing all these things. So I guess for me, just right place, right time when the program started, and the benefits have been immense since then.
I'm a newer person, a newer member of the community. I started earlier this spring, and I started with the DataDev mini challenges. And I'm actually going to share the link to the page because the mini challenges are over in terms of they're not posted anymore, and we're not submitting answers. But the previous challenges are there, and the page is great because it has all the different resources. And for example, as Timothy mentioned about the library for the postman to create webhooks. There are a lot of similar things like starters or examples or some templates that you can use for different developer tools like extensions or APIs, REST APIs. And I think I would have, if I would have gone back, I would have maybe learned a little bit more about the JavaScript API because that was a little bit of a baptism by fire, building something with JavaScript API without really knowing it. But otherwise, this challenge just made it really easy for me to start and try out and see what's this all about. So that's my path into this program.
Very cool. And I think Timothy as well, you did some mini challenges.
I enjoyed those a lot, and those got me the hat, and I don't have the doll, but I have the sticker. So lots of perks.
Yeah, and I'm going to share as well later on the YouTube. So Timothy and Anya actually presented. We had the solution. It was on the WebEx. So if you want to go for the challenges and you get stuck somewhere, or you just want to see the solution, we also have a recording of members of the community presenting the solutions and how they solve the challenges. So I'm going to post that. We have a playlist there. Perfect. So I don't see any other questions. So I think it's the time for the quiz. So let me share my screen, and I'm just going to paste the URL as well of the quiz on the chat, so you can all take part of quiz. So that's the quiz. Is the link in the quiz in the chat as well. I can see some people joining. Perfect. Okay, 2 players. 4, 8. What did you think? How many people are going to join us? So again, the top 3.
You said 2, 4, 8, so we're gonna have 16, 32, 32 maybe? Powers of 2.
See. Anya and Timothy, you cannot participate, by the way.
My hands are
just
here.
About.
More DataDev swag, please. We already got our matching t-shirts. Oh, sorry, Gigi.
Can you all see the screen with 15 players? Okay, yeah, we are like DataDev. I moved Flex as well, so Flexes. Maybe you can take the quiz.
Sure, he has all the answers.
Yeah, but his arms are like too short to type.
Ah, poor guy.
So let's wait. Are you all ready? We have 18 people. You can see your name there. If you don't see your name, that means you didn't join. So as soon as I click start, you cannot join anymore. So let's see. Let's say in 1 minute. Give 1 minute to join, people to join.
That sounds fair.
And we go to 20.
Anya, maybe if you secretly join. Oh yeah, we got it. Yeah.
Okay. Remember, get the beanie, and I don't know if I can find the stickers, some stickers as well. Okay, I think that's time. So ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, we have a winner, RJ. Let's go next one. Ooh, someone is on fire. Oh, top 3, Michael, Sergio, RG. Taco, Compare Association. Let's go next one. So that's Anya's presentation. So let's go to the next one. Oh, Matt is in the top 3 now. Oh, we have a new person in the top 3, Geraldine. I'm not sure how to pronounce. So let's see if Matt and Michael can come back to the top 3. Oh, Sergio again, and Joyo. Oh, Ninad is top 4 now. Let's see if we can make it to top 3. Easy question. Ooh.
Nice.
I think it's the last one. Maybe this one is the last one. And now we have the top 3. Good job, everyone.
Congratulations.
RG, Sergio, and I don't know how to, Eldurino. If you put your right email address when you subscribe, I'm going to email you to have your address. If you didn't put the right email address, please just add it in the chat so I have your right contacts to reach out to you. But congratulations, everyone. You did an awesome job. And I hope you enjoyed the quiz.
That was great. All right. Congratulations to our winners. I want to thank all of our presenters. So Gigi, Anya, Timothy, thank you so much. We'll be back again next month, November 19th. You can register and sign up for announcements. Go to usergroups.tableau.com/Phoenix for information. Connect with us on Slack, Twitter, LinkedIn. If you have any emails, send them along. I'll be happy to connect with you. So again, thanks to everyone. Thank you all for participating, and we'll see you all next month. Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Thank you.